Okay, beta. First of all, thank you very much for coming over,
Thank
because
you.
I feel this is very important to restore the history of the community, right? So my name is Mota S Jheeta, and it's spelled M-O-T-A. Middle initial is Singh, S-I-N-G-H, J-H-E-E-T like Tom, A. Mota S Jheeta.
Okay. And what are your parents' names?
My parents' name was Mota S Jheeta and late Harvansh Kaur Jheeta.
And how many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have two brothers, both of them passed away, and I got two younger sisters living here in Vancouver and in Surrey.
Okay. And what are their names from oldest to youngest?
Okay, my elder brother's name was Jeevan Singh Jheeta. He came to Canada in 1962.
Okay.
And my second brother was Magar Singh Jheeta.
Okay.
And my name, of course, I gave it to you.
Yeah.
And my two sisters, Gurdial Kaur Jheeta and Gurminder Kaur Jheeta.
Okay. And so, when is your birthday?
My birthday is June 6, 1939.
And where were you born?
I was born at a small village called Beerpind. It's very close to Nakodar, district Jalandhar.
Okay.
And I was 15 when I left Punjab and migrated to East Africa, Nairobi, Kenya.
Nairobi. Okay. And what made you go to Kenya?
Actually, my parents, my father, my brothers, they were in Kenya.
Okay.
And so my purpose was just to join the family.
Okay. So did they work in Kenya?
Yes,
or?
my father was he was an engineer.
Okay.
And he was an aircraft engineer, and he also worked as manufacturing machines like capstan machines and center lathe machine. He was a very well versed individual.
Yeah.
So he actually came to Kenya around 1930 or not 39 or 40 when I was about 10 years old.
Okay.
And the purpose was because of the Second World War, there were no jobs, there was no money in the market at all. We used to run a workshop in Moga in Punjab, and so my father felt like he was losing his business, so he decided to move to Kenya for better life.
Wow. Okay, so when you left India, did you have to stop your education there?
Yes, I did my matric,
Okay.
grade 10, and then I traveled from Jalandhar to Mombasa, then eventually to Nairobi, where my father and my brothers, they had already settled. And I got my education, basic education in Punjab, and then I continued my studies in Nairobi, Kenya.
Okay, and what did you study there?
I studied basic education in accounting, and in those days the things were very different, not exactly like this, and so more or less I was destined to work as a bank officer in one of the British banks in Nairobi. And so it was, you can say it was a clerical job, and of course you got promotions according to your services and seniority later on.
And what was the difference between Kenya and India? How were they different?
Kenya and India, and the difference I noticed was the purpose of employment. I think better life, and all those people, they were living in Kenya, they were very well settled, they had their own businesses, and they had jobs in the British government, which was, Kenya was a colony in those days, so it was ruled by the British. So we had sort of a good respect there. The life was much better than what we would see in India back in Punjab.
In what way?
In every economic ways, like your living standard, and of course all those people, they came to Kenya, their purpose was to support the family back home, and whatever they earned, then part of it they sent back to Punjab to support the family, because in Punjab jobs were very scarceful in those days too.
Okay. And was there a large Punjabi community in Kenya at that time?
Kenya, people mostly came from India to develop that country. And around 1880, the British government, they were trying to lay down the tracks, railway tracks there. And most people, they came to work on the railroad and then all the relating jobs. And my father, like when he came, he worked in a bookshop and there was a manufacturing workshop, you know, and so the whole purpose was to get job there and get economically better.
Yeah. And was there like a Gurdwara there or?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
As you asked me previously, I think I didn't answer your the whole answer properly. The majority people in Kenya were Sikhs and Gujaratis, and there were Muslims, and there were Goans, and almost every community that you find in back in India, they dwell there, and it was a very well managed sort of country. The life standard was much better, and we were close to India, only 2.5 hours time difference, and you could hear to the Indian radio programs directly relayed from Colombo, like Sri Lanka, and All India Radio. So we were closely connected to the Indian culture, Punjabi culture. So it was like a country not too far away from your country of origin, but with better life.
Yeah. And then when did you move to Canada?
I moved to Canada. So let me say I came to Kenya in 1955.
Okay.
55. And then I moved from there to Canada in 1966, November 14, 1966.
And what made you move to Canada?
In 1962, the Kenyan government got its independence from the British. And the education structure for the growing up, generation, like I have 2 sons and a daughter. And first of all, the education was one which was more priority for me, and then also future employment for the children. The chances to get the future, jobs were very scarceful. And most people, they were replaced by the local community, like the local people of that country, Kenyan, and their jobs were abolished, and so the future didn't look very bright. And besides, my brother had already come to Canada in 1962.
And why did he come?
The same reason, because he worked for the Royal Air Force, and his job was also abolished because the British had to leave the base, and so he came here. Actually, we decided to go back to India, but
when
somehow,
did you go back to?
Once we, like my brother, and when they lost their jobs, so we decided that we should go back, and but the circumstances developed in such a way that we made our decision to move here, because my brother, he had the opportunity, like I applied for him directly. In those days in Kenya, there was no Canadian visa office or Canadian High Commission's office there. And so I applied for my brother, and he got a job. But I had a very steady job in the bank because it was controlled from London, from England. And so brother told us that, the circumstances and the life is better here, and job opportunity is better. So I decided to join him in the same manner, and so I just came I actually resigned from a job, and most people, they call me I was crazy, but I think I made a good decision. So I came to Canada in 1966.
And who else came with you?
I came along with my family, my wife, my 3 children. They were very small, 4, 5, 6 years of age.
And were your children all born in Kenya?
Yes, Nairobi.
Okay, and where did your marriage happen?
My marriage took place in Nairobi too.
Okay, so did you meet your wife
there? Yes.
Okay, and what is your wife's name?
Mota S Jheeta.
Okay, And did she also work in Nairobi?
No, she in those days in Kenya, our community did not feel very comfortable. Although their children, including girls, everybody they were very well educated, but they did not believe in sending their girls to work. So my wife did not work.
Okay, but she did like housework.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Okay. So when you came to Canada, what visa did you come on?
I came on permanent visa. Yes, I applied from there, and I got my visa from Ottawa directly.
Okay.
And then my elder brother, also helped me to settle down here.
Okay, and then you arrived in Vancouver, correct?
No, I traveled from Nairobi to London,
Okay.
and I visited my parents there for 10 days. Then I flew from England to Toronto, and unfortunately in those days it was coincidence, the Air Canada was on strike, so they did not fly me to Vancouver. So I had to get down in Toronto airport, and then the Air Canada airline, they put me in a first class reservation in the CN train.
Yeah.
And I traveled from CN from Toronto to Prince George. There's a small station called Upper Fraser. That's where my brother was working, so I ended up coming there.
Wow. So what company was your brother working?
My brother was working for the Northwood Mills. It was operated by Narendra Mines from Toronto.
Okay.
And their head office was in Northwood Pulp Company in Prince George.
Okay. And did you say you visited your parents in London?
Yeah.
Oh, did they live in London?
No, they actually flew from Punjab just to meet me and my family, because they were British subject, all of them. They had no problem coming. So they came along, and we saw them for 10 days. Then the same day, after 10 days, we flew to Canada.
And then how long did the train ride take to go to?
2 nights, 3 days.
Okay.
Yes, and the train ride was very good.
Yeah.
And actually, I was taken very good care.
Yeah.
Although it was a hassle.
Yeah.
Because actually I would have traveled to Vancouver from Toronto just by air.
Right.
But they didn't put me in the plane. There was a strike there, air strike, airline strikes. So well, it was a good journey. My children, they were growing up still, so very small. But then my brother's friend, his name was Bud Haynes, Robert L. Haynes. He just came to get me from the railway station.
Oh, okay.
Because my brother,
sorry, what was his name?
Robert L. Haynes.
Right.
We used to call him Bud Haynes.
Oh, okay.
And he was the mechanical superintendent working in the Northwood Mills there, along with my brother. My brother could not come to the station to get me, simply because the day I left London, my father also passed away the same day.
Oh, okay.
So, and when I, got down from the train and with my family, so this message was given to me by Mr. Haynes that I have lost my father. And that was, was a shocking news for me. And so that was a sad story, but that's the way it happened. So.
And then when he picked you up, where did he take you?
Yeah, my brother's house was there in Upper Fraser. It was a company house, four-bedroom house. Okay. We had the largest house in the whole township. Okay. And my brother he was also mechanical superintendent there. And he had very honorable job. Almost 25 people worked under him in those days. And there were very few people who would be in technical profession. So my brother, he was very smart man in his profession, because he had experience from the Royal Air Force, and he was well versed in every profession as far as the mechanical job is concerned. So he was given a job as a supervisor.
And were your children enrolled in local schools?
Yes, there was a school there, and that was only up to grade 7.
Oh, okay.
primary school, so they got their education from there.
Okay.
But I did not stay all that time.
Mhm.
I lived there in Upper Fraser for almost 2 years, close to 2 years. Then I
Okay.
moved to Vancouver.
And what were you doing there for those 2
I
years?
was office administrator, like I was looking after all the
Okay.
jobs,
Right.
how when people are hired and making payrolls and
For
stuff like
Northwood?
that. Northwood Mills.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we had close to 400 to 500 people working there. There were 3 shifts there. It was a big township.
Right.
And there was also Woods Division,
Yeah.
which was operated by the Northwood Pulp Company.
Okay.
So it was a good job,
Mhm.
but I was looking after the office side of the job.
Okay. And then where did you go?
From there, one day I just decided, because our parents, we were the only one in those days in that area. There were and there was nobody from India there living.
Okay.
So because we moved from Nairobi, a country, city which was, we never felt like we left India. The life was very comfortable there.
Right.
So my sister-in-law and my wife, they felt like they were very lonely.
Mhm.
And we also did, but we were busy because, 8 hours you work, come back home, somehow you get used to kill your time and stuff like that. But they were very, very lonely. So we decided to move to Vancouver.
Okay.
Before that, this same guy, Mr. Haynes,
Mhm.
because I was thinking to go back to Kenya because I was not very happy. Because of the place,
Right.
because I was missing the company, there was no social life.
Yeah.
But job was okay.
Mm.
But then Mr. Haynes, he said, Mr. Jheeta, he says, you don't leave now because it's kind of early.
Yeah.
But let the summer come and then we'll show you around what Canada is all about.
Yeah.
And he sure did. He booked the cabins at the Osoyoos Lake.
Oh, okay.
And we spent a couple of nights there. And we went to the fruit orchards, picked peaches and apples, stuff like that. And of course I was very impressed. Then I thought maybe I should give a chance
Yeah.
and look for another job. So I was offered a job by one of the banks in Prince George, but the wages were very low. So
Yeah.
I decided that I'm not going to do the bank work
Mhm.
because I had banking experience, right?
Mhm.
So I decided I should try something else. So I moved just because I took a few days holidays and I wanted to see what Vancouver is all about.
Yeah.
And there was one family where we knew from our village they were living. So
okay.
although they were very supportive, to give us guidance and stuff like that.
And what were their names?
His name was Jai Singh Uppo.
I see.
And they still live here. And he came in early 50s, around early 50s.
Okay.
So he was very helpful.
Mm.
And then he arranged, I decided that Vancouver is better because
Okay.
I could see some people there.
Yeah.
And at least it was a city life. It was not a small little, a village sort of life where there's nothing really for entertainment or nothing. And my good part was that I never drank, I never smoked or anything. So for me, Saturday, Sunday was a very boring day.
Mm.
And so I found Vancouver was perhaps the place where I could settle.
Mm.
And I finally decided, and one day I just started looking for a job. And I was offered a job by another bank here, and they paid close to $400 a month.
Okay.
Those wages were very low, and even in the sawmills, our people were earning close to $220, $229. That was hourly wages in those days.
Mm.
So, but considering the cost of living, those wages were good. They were not bad. People still saved money, and the life was comfortable.
Okay.
Actually, people had less stress than what we have today.
Okay.
Okay, so I finally got a job with the CNR,
Okay.
and they gave me a job. There were 4 or 5 people interviewed. One job was there, and they asked me to write exam, and I didn't know nothing about Vancouver. They asked me to write an essay on Vancouver.
Okay.
So whatever I observed, I wrote.
Yeah.
And they gave me, a few other tests, and I was lucky. I stood first
Oh, okay.
in the whole group,
Wow.
and the job was given to me.
Hmm.
And I was the first person with the turban to work with the CNR.
Wow. Okay. And what was your role with the CNR?
I worked as it was a railway work, but like transportation.
Mm.
And I basically did the office work, preparing
Okay.
documents and stuff like that.
Okay.
But then later on, I was looking after the revenue accounts, billing customers and stuff like that.
Right.
And my bosses were in Edmonton and Montreal. I enjoyed my job very, very much. And basically, I was very fortunate because I retired after 30 years of service from there.
Okay.
And out of 30 years, I think I worked for the community 20 years from my desk,
Wow.
giving back to the community.
Mm.
And the company was very good because I was involved in those days in the community quite a bit.
Okay.
And in 1983, I was the president. In 1974, I was the secretary at Khalsa Diwan Society, Vancouver.
Oh, okay.
So
And what were you the president of?
I was Khalsa Diwan Society, the
okay.
Gurdwara,
Both
Ross
president.
Gurdwara.
Oh, okay.
In 74, I was a recording secretary.
Oh,
Then I
okay.
also did secretary's work. In 83, when there was a hard time on the Sikh community, I was the president of Ross Gurdwara in those days. So I was quite actually active in the community work and so many other things that I was doing.
Yeah.
I have brought a list of activities that I have undertaken with
Oh,
the
okay.
community. And
Yeah.
you can probably take it with you if you like.
Okay.
It's quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I have also written a book which is close to 400, some 56 pages.
Mm.
And that tells you what kind of evolution I have seen in the community, how the
Okay.
changes have taken place. And so I actually, because of my involvement, the community asked my company to give me sort of an access so I can keep working for the community.
Mm.
So the Solicitor General, the Attorney General of British Columbia, those days, they gave me a letter and they wrote a letter to my company, CNR, that anytime I want to do something,
Yeah.
the company should permit me to go and work for the community whenever I'm needed.
Okay.
And I had my own office. I could walk out anytime, walk out anytime in. And my only responsibility was that I should make sure that my job is up to date, which I maintained. And so that's why I say almost 20 years I gave to the community and 10 years to the company. But that was, I was very fortunate in those days. Even the immigration system was so good. My connection with the community and the government agencies, provincial, federal government, and city, they were so good that, sometimes if somebody was stuck at London airport, wanted to come to Vancouver,
Yeah.
the immigration office would simply call me, Mr. Jheeta, this man applied on behalf of the Gurdwara. Should be allowed to let him board the plane.
Yeah.
And if I say yes, they will let him go.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
I've got a letter from the city acknowledging that the community was fortunate
Okay.
to have a person working for the community such as myself,
Yeah.
which was a kind of matter of very, a high pride for me.
Yeah.
So
That's so cool. And then you lived in Vancouver, right?
I lived in Vancouver for a few years. Then I moved to Richmond,
Okay.
where I lived almost 17 years.
Okay.
And I'm here over 25 years here.
Okay.
So almost 54, 55 years since I've come here.
And what made you move here?
Here,
Mm-hmm.
I think the real estate market was better. Surrey was developing.
Mm-hmm.
We all know that. So the houses were cheap.
Yeah.
You sell the house there. Here you get house. Your house is almost free instantly.
Yeah.
And the houses were bigger.
Mhm.
So and my old house was getting kind of old and needed repair. So me and my brother, we both decided we should move to Surrey.
Okay. And so how were your first 5 years in Canada like? Like what, did you find it difficult to adjust or was there any?
The difficulty that I told you earlier
Mm-hmm.
was only that I missed the lifestyle
Oh, okay.
which we enjoyed in Nairobi, Kenya. And because we were very lonely in Prince George.
Right.
So in Prince George, there were no Gurdwara in those days.
Yeah.
And there were only three streets. First street 1, 2, 3, I think.
Oh, okay.
And there were only about maximum four families living in Prince George, and we every month we went shopping to the Bay or to the Woodwards, and we used to get together there, 4 or 5 families, and the things were very, very different than what you see today.
Yeah.
And lots of times, things we wanted to buy, we would not find there. And the manager of Woodward store, he would simply come to ask, and if we found what we wanted in the store or not. If not, then they made sure that we ordered next time we come to the store to buy something. So things were good. So I personally tell you, I did not believe in although I knew that there is prejudice, there is discrimination.
Right.
And only difference I experienced was that I had banking experience.
Right.
So when I applied for a job, I go somewhere, they'll say, okay, there is a job for you, but they'll give me a slip to go to the sawmill to pull lumber. When I go there, I say, I cannot do this job. Say, this is what they're giving you. I say, no, I don't want that job. So, they expected our people, like the people coming from India, that they were only good for pulling lumber. They had no other knowledge.
Yeah.
That was generally the expression, because most of people, they worked in the sawmills. And I tell you, this is very true. When I came here to Vancouver, I wanted to type a letter.
Yeah.
And I asked so many families if they had a typewriter. Nobody had a typewriter. Okay. So, and then finally there was a gentleman, his nephew was here, and he was the first pilot here. He was a commercial pilot. His name is, I think his name was Karma. I don't know what was the last name. Karam Singh, I think. He was the first pilot. And so through him I got the typewriter to type an application to apply for jobs. So things were very, very different.
Yeah.
And so I personally, sometimes you would find people when you're driving, they show you finger or something like that. And but I did not really experience any difficulty. I had no language problem. I could communicate with people. And in fact, I used to get a lot of good comments. And when I came to Upper Fraser, I used to go and collect my mail from the post office. And there was no system like here, the letter would come to your door, no. So we go to the post office, and that's where we posted the letters, and that's where we collected the mail. And the owner of this store, she operated, her name was Mrs. Hearn. She operated the post office outlet. And one day, after I visited her so many times, she would see me and say hello. And one day she said, Mr. Singh, can I ask you a question? I said, what? He says, when I ask you a question, you immediately answer in English. How do you do this?
Yeah.
And I says, just explain to me. And you don't even take time. You right away. She says, we can only speak English.
Yeah.
And we have difficulty sometimes. And you answer this is not your language.
Yeah.
But how do you answer in English right away? So, this is just to cut the story short. These sort of questions were normally posed. And basically, your mouth works faster than your mind, actually.
Yeah. And where did you learn your English?
I learned it in Nairobi, East Africa.
Okay.
That's where I went to college. But because my job was related with all sort of people, and my bosses, they were all English people. So, although Hindi and Punjabi they were two languages, they were very fluently freely spoken. But I had an exposure. And my job was drafting letters, so that gave me quite a bit of enhancement to write letters, to communicate with people. And that was, I think, an asset for me even when I came here. And how to communicate and how to, get proper response. So your language, I think, plays a very big and a major role
For sure.
to achieve your goal through your communication.
Mm-hmm. And did you ever experience any racism or know anybody around you that experienced any racism?
Yes, I did a little bit at work because when I was to get any promotion, people always obstructed me.
Oh, okay.
You know,
With the
and-
CNR?
Yeah, CNR, and that was only one time. But then my job was so good,
Yeah.
and I was so much given respect by my company,
Right.
and so I was happy. Actually, I was recommended by my boss.
Yeah.
At one time, I removed my turban.
Oh,
And
okay.
I told my manager that I like to wear my turban. And he says, who is stopping you?
Oh, okay.
I said, that's very nice. So he says, just go right ahead.
And what
I
was
came
the
home.
manager's name?
His name was Don Stebbings.
Okay.
Yeah. And he said, just go ahead and do it. And I started growing my beard, and I was back on my line, and I just got my turban. In 1982, I took the baptism. I took Amrit.
Right. That's so great. So, would you say that you had so much respect at work? Was it because of your hard work?
My hard work, yes. Hard work, and I was, my managers could always count on me, and my job was never left behind or anything like that. And also, there's so many things reflects about your being anywhere amongst the people. And the job I was doing was dealing with the public, right?
Right.
So around Christmas time, I'll tell you a nice story. One of the automobile company, their representative comes to me around Christmas time. He brings me a big bottle of whiskey.
Oh,
Okay, and he says, "This thing, you have been doing so much work for us, and you have been very nice to us, and so the company is giving you, they almost sent every year, but this is one thing perhaps worth talking about." So I said, "Okay." He packed it nicely, and this was about, I don't know, 15 years old whiskey, a very nice bottle of whiskey. So when I opened it, I saw, well, I don't drink or anything. I've never touched any drink, by the way, right from my childhood. So I said, I don't drink. And so I took the bottle of whiskey to my manager. I said, "Mr. Stebbings, this is the gift they gave me.
Yeah.
And I don't drink, it's Christmas time and you have dinner there. So you guys can use it and I don't need it." And Don said, "No, Mr. Jheeta, this gift is for you and you got to take it home." That bottle sat in my home for almost 15 years. Till my brother-in-law came from England and he was so happy to look at it because he drank. So he says, "I'm going to take it." I said, "Just go ahead and take it." So they said, "Why don't you take it home?" I said, "No, I don't want to take it home." Because those are the kind of things, still memories are,
Right.
with me. So these things, they earn respect for everybody.
And have you ever returned to India?
Yes. First time I returned to India was almost after 30 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Once I retired, and then almost every year and a half, 2 years, I go back to visit my home. But the reason is I was the only single earning hand in the family. My wife did not work.
Yeah.
And my 3 children, I sent them to the university, and
And what are your 3 children's names?
My daughter, she has her own business.
Oh, okay.
And my other son, he's a biomedical engineer. He's in Toronto. And the younger one, the one that opened the door, he's a doctor here.
Oh, okay. And what are their names?
My daughter's name is Kamaljeet Kaur.
Okay.
And my older son, first son, younger to her, is Gursharan Singh. And this one is Dr. Rajesh Singh.
Wow, that's great. You raised them well.
So, when you have such a big responsibility on you, so you can't have all the luxuries of life, I guess.
Yeah, so true. And what changes have you noticed when you go back to India?
In India, when I went to India, and that was in 93.
Okay.
1993.
Right.
And to me, I could, my village where I was born, we don't live there any longer because we moved to Jalandhar in 1956 when we left Kenya. My father built a house there, so there's nobody in the Pind anyway, and we sold whatever assets were. However, I enjoyed because I missed the old things. The India was much better in those days, even in '93, much better. And things are gone bad, I think, quite a bit now.
No.
But the lifestyle in Kenya is more like Canada.
Okay.
So
Even now?
yes, those
Okay.
people who are rich, they are very rich. But then poverty is there,
Right.
corruption is there. Ever since the British has left, like I'm told, some people go there and visit. I've never been to Kenya after 1966. But they said Kenya is not just the same the way it was during the British time. But during the British time, it was a heaven, I tell you that. Nobody wanted to come to UK or come to Canada. The weather was good. The sun rises around 6 o'clock and sets at 6:30 in the evening every day, right through the year. You're living on the equator.
Right.
The weather is so nice. It's just beautiful. Country loaded with fruit, and here you guys, we always longing to have fresh fruit, like passion fruit and all that. There you got abundance of. Nobody even look at them.
Yeah.
All kind of varieties of bananas, oranges, mangoes, just pineapples. Nobody care about that,
Yeah.
So cheap, papayas are so cheap, it's not a priority to buy them.
Yeah. And what about Canada? What changes have you seen? You've lived here for so long. How has it developed throughout the years?
Canada, when I came here, actually, you need quite a bit of time to get an answer to that. When I came, Vancouver Hotel was the tallest building.
Okay.
Okay. And on Georgia Street, I could still see people living in the A-shaped houses,
Yeah.
on Georgia Street. Now there's not even one house you see,
Yeah.
but I've seen houses there.
Oh.
Okay, and Vancouver Hotel was the tallest building. All those buildings, high rises, they were built after I come here. Okay, and when I came, like I said, the wages were low, but crime rate almost none.
Yeah.
People call the Canada a land of milk and honey.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and you go to any post office, government office, and you go to the bus station like a Greyhound, and you will get free donut and free coffee.
Okay.
During winter time. Any office you go to, and that was provided free.
Just because.
Yeah, because cold. But people were nice,
Yeah.
and of course, as the immigration flux started increasing, then you could notice that discrimination somehow is sprung up from where, don't know. But then after that, there were a lot of window breakings too on our community. In the 70s. And in Surrey there was a house where. Every day there was a problem there.
Wow.
And then finally there was a group of our people, they call them East Indian Defense Committee or whatever. They got together and they finally caught that boy who was breaking the windows and causing all kind of problems. And things were different afterwards.
Yeah.
But when I came, at that time, sure, our people were, there was hardly anybody in the municipal office working, our community members, any government agencies, no jobs. Like jobs were there, but our people were not employed. There were no radio stations. There was only one radio station, was called India Today. It was a half an hour program used to be run by, there was a person called Malkeet Singh Parhar. He operated that station from Main Street and 6th Avenue, I think. He had a small little office there where he used to, he had a traveling office. So he was the only one. Then after that, the changes came, radio stations, TVs and everything. In 1983, by the way, 1982, there was a study done by the federal government. It was called Equality Now. And by that time, lots of visual minority people had already come into Canada to settle here. So with that, of course, there were the responsibilities that naturally arose for the government, like for the police, for providing employment and stuff like that. The changes started coming over, and the government studied at 3 level at the Bayshore Inn, and I was the one of the member of our community who made a presentation on behalf of the community, and that was a program called Equality Now to study what sort of needs were there to serve the other communities, and they made a recommendation of almost 100 recommendations, which are still being implemented. And it was from that time that our community members started getting jobs in the municipal office, provincial office, and also at the federal level. But before that, there were no jobs. Our people, mostly they were, either they had their sawmills or they were working in the sawmills, that sort of job. And when I came here, there was not even one single store that was operated by our community members. No shops, no store, nothing. Even the grocery we used to buy from famous food store that was located on Clark Street and Hastings, and that was owned by an Italian company, and people used to go and buy grocery from there, even your atta and dal and everything. And that lady, Italian lady, she was very versant about the names, about the things that you want to buy. She would guide you. Whatever you want, Hariya Lachan, she knows where they are, and then they'll get you everything. So changes have taken place, lot of them, and even the TV programs developed later on, and radio stations started. But that was all because of the recommendation we made in 1982
that's so good.
at the Bayshore Inn, at the 3 levels to the federal government. The program was running simultaneously, and there were other people too, like Akali Singh Gurdwara. I made presentation on behalf of the Khalsa Diwan Society, which is the mother organization of our community, right? Like they have a branch in Abbotsford, Victoria, all over the places. The Khalsa Diwan Society, big name, right? Anything they say, and the government always paid attention to it. Okay, so. Even you're talking about this Mrs. Tinder Baines, her father-in-law and his brother, elder brother, we worked together many years, Mr. Tara Singh Baines, and his younger brother, Stinder's father-in-law, they moved to California, I think Yuba City, close to that. So I've seen a lot of things happen here.
And then what about the Apna community, like the population growing? How have you noticed that change?
When I came here, there were very few people. Hardly you would see anybody with a turban. And if there was anybody with a turban, there could be more, most likely would be a priest from the Gurdwara, the Fai. Otherwise, people had difficulty even performing certain ceremonies in the Gurdwara, because a lot of people lost lack of people, and but things were in the beginning, they were much better. People respected each other, and the reason was because most of the immigration took place because of the blood relation. Anybody who came here through blood relation, anybody who was sponsored, that was sponsored, either you have your parents, who was related by blood to you. But after that, in early 60s, the Liberal government, they amended the law, immigration rules, and they invited people to come with their skills and academic skills to Canada. And then that's the time people came here, and we came in that sort of during that change. We made independent applications, and we were given permission to come over.
And have you sponsored anyone to Canada since?
I did sponsor only one family.
And
that was my brother-in-law. He went back to England again. He didn't want to stay here. I have, because my whole family is here. My sisters are here, and we came almost all together.
Yeah.
And so I have never sponsored anybody.
Okay. And so what do you do nowadays?
Nowadays I'm retired.
Yeah.
And
What year did you retire?
I actually retired early in 1998.
Okay.
I was about 58 when my job was actually they cut down the redundancy in jobs,
Mm.
and so they gave me pension, everything, and good package. So I
Okay.
decided to take it. But I've never worked ever since. I have been busy with doing community works and stuff like that.
Okay. Can you talk a bit more about your community work?
My community work, actually, I have I've sat on a provincial advisory committee
Okay.
to the RCMP for almost 30 years.
Wow.
Okay, and before that, I have also served as an advisor on the provincial committee on multiculturalism, and for 4 years.
Okay.
And I was appointed by the House, like Parliament,
Okay.
Legislative Assembly.
Hmm.
And like I said, I have been the president of the Khalsa Diwan Society and secretary.
Hmm.
I have been an instrument in assisting or writing constitutions of most of the gurdwaras here in the lower mainland area.
Yeah.
And I have been main person. Actually, now you see the changes,
Hmm.
because the man who is always in the front gets the regard. But I'm the person who brought the changes in the dress code in the RCMP.
Okay.
Yes. So our people, and I was also a person who had almost 36 people specially given summer training for RCMP to get the jobs.
Hmm.
And then I was instrumental in bringing the parity with the City Police of Vancouver
Hmm.
for dress code. They could work with the turban and with their 5Ks.
Yeah.
And I've spoken about the youth at the United Nations level.
Okay.
And in '93, I was candidate for Member of Parliament here in Surrey.
Okay.
And then I have been a member of the Expo committee. I don't think you would be even born in 1986. And then there was a Vancouver Centennial celebration. I was a member of that.
Hmm.
So I have done so much work. I've been spokesman for the community for many years.
Hmm.
And I have saved the ESL program several jobs when there was shortage of money.
Yeah.
And I was sponsored by the Vancouver School Board to go to Toronto as a delegate to express our needs. And I was a person who, with the help of Mo Sahota from, like he was the minister in those days, and other people, I was the chairman of this committee to establish the Punjabi language.
Okay.
This is how it started. Now the plea is taking care of to further this cause. But I was actually one who was chairing this committee to have the Punjabi introduced in our schools.
Okay. In like elementary?
Yeah, elementary schools.
Okay.
Yes, that's right. And then it's a big list. You can probably take it. I have, like I said, out of my 30 years service with the railway, 20 years gone to the community.
That's amazing.
And I'm fortunate that the community always consult me whenever there is a problem in the community, or my life stories and my contributions are recorded on the different TV programs.
Okay.
And I appear on TV and radios shows. Whenever they ask me, I go. And the provincial government in Victoria, they did the recording on me. People have written thesis, UBC, University of Washington, Simon Fraser, even some of the people who have become judges now, they used to come and interview me before, but tide waits for none, So things have changed, but I've seen a lot of changes. But community needs to do a lot of work, which I think right now is not happening. And the Nagar Kirtan, which we started here in Vancouver on continuous basis 1979.
Oh, you helped start that?
Yes, and first 4 years. For 4 years, permit was issued under my name.
Okay.
We started the Vancouver in 1979.
Wow.
Yes, along with the other, of course, respectable members of our community. But I was the main person who was always in front line to communicate.
Right.
And even the next adjoining community to Ras Gurdwara, which is called Guru Amardas Niwas, that was purchased. I was the leading man in the community in those days.
Okay.
And that was bought for $520,000. Nowadays you can't even get a house. And a similar size of lot which the Ras Gurdwara had, there's one on the other side. That was also bought in 1982 when a gentleman, Diljit Singh Sandhu, was the president at the Gurdwara at that time. But I was doing most of the office work, communication work, and that was the reason my services were noticed by the politicians, and I was asked to run as a member of parliament in 1992.
Okay, wow. And so I guess if you could send a message to the youth of today, what would you like to tell them?
My message to the youth, this is a very good question. My message to the youth is that you are the future of the community. If you want to see your community progress, then education is very important. Get the highest education you can get. Secondly, never underestimate yourself. Every person has the potential and a sense of high skills. You have to just recognize yourself. And if you look into yourself, you have a quality. That quality you need to develop. And there's lots of things we can do to bring our community ahead. The best thing is to start from keep away from all kind of drugs, keep away all kind of bad habits. And our history is very rich. And if we read our history, we can plan our future better. There are lots of things we need to do in our community. We need a community center which we don't have yet. We need perhaps to build a university of our own if we want to really stand on our own 2 legs. And these kind of dreams can only be fulfilled by our future generation, the youth. And I really ask them to get education and realize your responsibility towards yourself, your parents, your community, and the country. Canada we live in. This is a beautiful country. We have the option to really do a lot of things, and we should go ahead and do them.
Yeah, that's so powerful. Okay, thank you so much, Uncle Ji, for this interview.
I thank you very much for both of you coming here.
Thank you.
And asking me these questions. I mean, there are lots of things perhaps need to be yet told, and because things I have experienced, and you can find them, most of them in my book.
Do you have any other special story you'd like to share?
Take my book.
Okay.
Go through it.
Okay.
And see what points of interest you feel and needs to be discussed. I know one point when our community in Abbotsford, because you come from Abbotsford, right?
Yeah.
That was at a verge of selling that Gurdwara property.
Which Gurdwara?
The Khalsa Diwan Society.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and there were 2 groups. There was one branch group, then there was one same name I had, Mota S Jheeta group.
Oh, okay.
In those days.
Yeah.
And this was in the early 70s, 1970s. And because that land was donated by a family, the Khalsa Diwan Society, they were not in favor of selling it. The other family, they were concerned, they used to run a sawmill here, and they were in favor of building a Gurdwara, bigger Gurdwara, in Mission area, which they eventually ended up doing it. But we went through that sort of a tussle too, along with my other friends. But I was At one time, I was asked to amend the constitution of Khalsa Diwan Society when I was 4 2. So seen lots of things, because most people depended on the decisions they were made by the Khalsa Diwan Society Vancouver. That was the key association or the institution of our community, right? And Khalsa Diwan Society has given a lot to the community. We talk, in the 70s, why there was big fights in Gurdwara, why Akali Singh Gurdwara was built. And and when Victoria Gurdwara was built, and what happened to New Westminster Gurdwara, why all these Gurdwaras came into being. So there's lots of things, and how things have shaped up. And those things perhaps needed to be recorded somewhere. And I have written a book called Sach Kaho, Truthful Accounts. It has lots of things I have briefly touched. I'm not a big writer or anything, but because I led the community, I was in the forefront, so I maintained my diary. And what I've done is basically, as I have seen, similarly I have put everything in my book. There may be a lot of Punjabi writing mistakes and stuff like that, because if I change the things, then I lose the originality. So just to maintain the originality, I've kept them in the same form. So I'm going to give you that book to you, can take it with you, and I'll give you a list of my activities. Things are a lot going on, but I'll give you these 2 pages, which are perhaps you enjoy that. And thank you very much for coming.
And I guess, what are some of your hobbies nowadays, just to end it
My
off?
hobby, I'm looking after my wife. She had stroke, but most of the time I spend around her. And but I'm always helpful, because people do ask me for my advice, any Gurdwara committees and all that. And in one of I can give you 2 more highlights of my life. One was the Guru Granth Sahib used to be kept here in the courts. Guru Granth Sahib, the sacred scripture. And I was the instrument to bring them back from the Supreme Court of British Columbia. It took almost 6 years, and with the help of the Government of India, and with the help of the Khalsa Diwan Society and its managements. There were 33 volumes they were retained, given back to Khalsa Diwan Society. And the oath-taking system was changed ever since. Before, people used to place their hand on the gudka or whatever, and then they used to take an oath. And now the Sikh, unfortunately, if they have to go to the court, they can simply raise their right hand and say that they can take the affirmation, and there is no gudka or any gurbani kept in the Supreme Court of British Columbia. So that was one of the highlight, the top highlight of my life. Second was to bring amendment in the dress code. The third, I think, I did was in New West Gurdwara, when there was a big tussle there for 6-7 years. The Supreme Court of British Columbia appointed me to hold the election for the community. And there's a story about it, because the judge was hearing to both sides. And I was at home, I didn't even know. I knew, in the community, we always have these kind of things going on. But suddenly, around 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, somebody comes and knocks at the door, says, can we come in? He says, sure. He says, we want to question with Mr. Jheeta that the court has selected you to hold the election on behalf of the community, because there's a tussle there. The judge actually told the community member, don't you have anybody in your community who can make you sit together and resolve this problem once for all? Because the tussle was going on since last 6-7 years. And the Gurdwara's condition was very, very bad in those days. So I accepted that, and the judge actually gave 3 names there, and out of those 3 names out of community, my name came, very clear. So I could not simply say no to them. So I held as a representative of Supreme Court of British Columbia to hold the election for the community. There were more than 10,000 people, and I had 3 polling stations in New West, Surrey, and Abbotsford. And then ever since, the feud in our community has vanished. And look at the condition of New West Gurdwara now. They are doing so well. and then the effect of that Gurdwara was reflected on Guru Nanak Sikh Temple Gurdwara in Surrey too. So that was also one huge big thing that I did all by myself because I could not take anybody's support. People, suspect that if I was going to do any favor to anyone, but that was not my point. My point was to bring the amicability into community, peace. So lots of things I've done like that.
Yeah.
And 4 years advice to the British government. British
The British government? Oh.
To the BC government.
Oh, BC. Okay.
BC government. At that time, I was appointed for 4 years as an advisor to multiculturalism.
Okay. So good. Thank you so much for all your hard work and for sitting here and talking to us today.
Thank you.